onto this gameplay. First up, my opponent's playing Chaos over here, and they open with a charge of the Light Brigade and a Solar Recharge and an Instant Fusion. Now right here, when they went for Node, I was afraid that they would make a Rafflesia. I wouldn't be able to deal with that. However, instead, they go for something a lot cooler than just make a Rafflesia. They put a Stardust Dragon and a Clearwing Synchro Dragon on board. What this does is that your opponent can't mass destroy your board, and they can't target anything on your board. So when I saw this, I knew the only reason, well, they can target, it just can't only be targeting one card. So when I saw this, I knew the only way I was going to be dealing with this was with Treacherous Trap Hole. And yes, there is already a trap card in my graveyard, not for long though, because Diana. So very lucky for me there, drawing the Diana. So I could do that and remove the trap card in my graveyard from play. So at this point, I know that Clearwing, I can't do anything until Clearwing's gone. And Clearwing can't get over Rafflesia, so I just have to wait till my opponent puts a second monster on board, which they now do. I use Rafflesia and send that Treacherous Trap Hole to blow those up. Light Pulsar, get the Summon of Red Eyes. I have a Void Trap Hole face down, however, which can negate the Red Eyes and put it back in the graveyard. Luckily for me, I had this Myrmilio, so I can just normal summon Myrmilio and search a Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare, because I know that anything my opponent can do right now, Nightmare can deal with. And at this point, I go for Tin Goldfish and Repetier. I attacked with the Tin Goldfish first, just in case they, for some reason, had Gores. Didn't think they would, but just in case, and go into Rafflesia. Repetier does not get as effective being attacked, unfortunately. Now I have a Rafflesia though, so when my opponent goes for Samsara, which is a really cool card, but when they go for Samsara, I was just able to activate a time space from deck. And basically, I was in a really, really good position. I think this game's pretty interesting against DDDs. This game, it takes a lot of patience from me. Now here I just go ahead and go to Atrax. I consider just going and normal summoning Atrax and letting that be it, because that would let me summon or activate the trap holes from hand. However, I'm very glad I didn't, because I did end up needing all three of my trap holes. I go and then turn again. I could have negated this and used the Nightmare on it. Again, I'm glad I made the proper judgment there and did not do so. So now they're going to go for a Kepler, activate that. Again, not activating the Nightmare. I want to save everything for when they go for boss monsters, because I do know how DVDs work. Because I know the deck, I can make the judgments. And what I'm saying right now is pretty much just, it's very important to know your opponent's deck. So they go for Siegfried, I negate, or return it to the extra deck. Go for Temujin, negate that with the Nightmare I've been saving up. And so yeah, I did have to use all three trap holes I had. But now I can use Tin Goldfish to summon Diana. Now my opponent's going to regret this right here. When they summoned Chaos Apocalypse, I typed in chat, thanks, because of this. I can just go into Dark Rebellion and thank you for giving me a stronger monster. So normally that would seem really good, but when your opponent's just going to go for an Exceed, maybe you don't want to destroy your contracts to summon that. My opponent couldn't have, well, they could have known. Is just going into Dark Rebellion, but it's not a play you really see too easily, I don't think. I mean, in retrospect, it's very easy. They do have contract with the Valkyrie, so they can just destroy that. Their monsters gain attack power. And I go ahead and go for Gigastone Omega. What this will do is, if Gigastone is destroyed, then he destroys all the spell and traps my opponent controls. He's essentially a Harpy Feather Duster in monster form. It only works for rock decks. That's really cool. If he's destroyed with battle, he won't go off. And he's only 2300. However, in a deck where I have all these trap hole cards, I can protect him pretty well and prevent my opponent from putting big things on board. So here I got really lucky and top decked in Myrmilio, so I could add his time space to hand. I made Dragon Zero as essentially another trap hole. I forgot, however, that it can't target monsters in defense mode, so that was my mistake there. Valkyrie is able to just blow that up, and right now Valkyrie is just being a huge issue for me. Because I don't have anything that can get over this Lamia. So here my opponent goes last ditch effort and goes for Oblivion King. And the bet there was, do I have a trap hole? Now, they saw me search the time space, but they could have very easily forgotten because I was doing a lot of things. And I just want to talk about where this game would have gone. What would have happened is that they would have actually gained 1,000 instead of taking 1,000, so they would have been very strongly in the game. They would have had a 2,800 and a 3,000 on board, able to get over both my monsters without activating Omega's effect. And my only set card is Call of the Haunted, so I would have been able to go for a Dianaya and special set the time space from my graveyard to the field, but that wouldn't have done anything. I could have gone for Myrmilio, again, wouldn't have really done anything. I could go for Omega, I think. No, I could not go for Omega. So there wasn't really anything I could do. If I had drawn a level 4 monster, then I could have used Call of the Haunted, go for Dianaya, special set, summon, and exceed into something. If I hadn't gone for it already, then an Exceed Rebellion is what I would have gone into. I don't remember if I went into it or not, and that probably would have actually done me pretty well, except for this Valkyrie. If he had drawn a DDD, then that would have been it. Next up, let's go for Traptrix for the Emperor. This is a game against Monarchs. And this game's pretty interesting. Again, I know my opponent's deck pretty well, so I am able to just play against their deck because I know what they're doing. So first, I didn't open up too well. However, my opponent's opening play, my opening hand was actually perfect, because this lets me set 2 Natria Cherries and get rid of everything on their board, while also banishing their Monarch monster. What would have happened is that they would have destroyed my 2 back row and drawn 2 cards, and then had a 2,800 monster on the board, which is obviously very terrifying. However, that was not allowed to happen. They goes original Monarch here, and are able to summon that and defend their life points. And of course, I just went ahead and attacked because I knew they could do that, and I wanted them to. Because now I can go into the Rafflesia, at which point I can just regular trap hole the monster they go for. Had it been something else, I could have used Void Trap Hole and negated its effect. However, because it was Mobius, it's like, whatever. Just regular Trap Hole it. Now I'm sitting on a situation where I've got Naturi Beast, so I can negate Domain. I have Rafflesia, so I can negate the summons that they would get if they drew an Idea or Erebus. I accidentally forgot, wow, wording. I forgot that the only trap hole in my deck I could activate at that time was an Acid Trap hole, and I had the only face down monster, so that was just completely a misplay. I go into Barkion because the only thing that's really going to help right now is a trap card. They did draw Tenacity, unfortunately for them, and I had Nightmare as well, so there wasn't really anything to do there. I attacked first with Repetare because I knew they had original Monarch in the graveyard, and that could be summoned to block the attack, and that was the only thing other than Barkion that could get over it. At this point they scoop because they had Domain, but I have a Rafflesia, I have a set Nightmare, and I've got a Barkion. So there really wasn't anything my opponent could do here, and I kind of feel bad for him, actually. But again, this is the kind of game I like to play where I'm just absolutely winning. No question about it. I have a lot of fun playing when I'm losing as well. As long as I'm losing it to something cool, like, you know, Zords. Drop Megazord. How do I deal with this? The deck. I guess I'll play that a bit and deck profile it. At the moment, I'm just using my friend's build. We played so many games the other day. But anyways, they obviously don't know what this deck does, because they did just go for Pendulum Double Odd Eyes. They would have, if they did know gone Pendulum 1 Odd Eyes to bait it out. Still know how to play, and I had to do it next turn, but that would have baited out both materials. And they used Dragon Pit, of course, to blow that up. Used Torrential, unfortunately for them, because of the weird timing on Torrential Tribute and the Summon of Diana, I do still get Murmilio. Now, because of Insight, they are able to summon 2 monsters here, and actually hit me for 1800 damage. Then in main phase 2, they go into Utopia, which, knowing that I have a Regeki is a terrible play, but not knowing that is understandable. I have Regeki, so I just set that, or activate that rather. Activate Call of the Haunted during my opponent's end phase to summon Murmilio and blow up the Wiretap. I know it could have been a Mirror Force, I don't know. But anyway, that gives me a summon there, and Diana will give me a summon of another Diana, which I'm just going to pronounce absolutely differently every single damn time. And then I can go into Rafflesia, leaving a 1700 Dionea on the board with an unattached Call of the Haunted. And there really isn't anything my opponent can do here. If they went for a Pendulum, I can time space it. There wasn't anything in their extra deck to Pendulum for. If they had drawn a Pendulum monster, they could have used Dragon Pit to blow up my Rafflesia and been in the top deck game against me. However, I also had Gigastone Omega, so there wasn't a lot of chance there. And since they don't seem to read cards, if they had blown up my Omega, that would have blown up their scales, and obviously been very problematic. So, I forget which games I have shown so far. Yeah, I think I've shown all of them where my opponent didn't just have to scoop. I'll go ahead and show you this one. Nah, I just go for first turn beast. They're playing Dark Worlds and just can't play. And that's it. So that's pretty boring.